Good evening, and welcome to Let's Talk Maywood on Diversity Today Media. I am your host, Dr. Reggie Ratliff, and joining me is my co-host, my co-laborer in the vineyard, and expert financial advisor, Terrence Hollingsworth. Terry, good evening, brother. How are you?
Good afternoon or good evening. How is it today, Dr. Ratliff?
Good. So we celebrated Black History Month. Now we're starting Women's History Month here in March.
Yep.
And a lot going on. And you know, as it relates to turning the page, what's in store for us from a financial aspect? We talked about a couple of things that will impact us all, like the stock market and the mortgage rates and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the interesting thing when we start talking about Black history, and we talk about women history and their place in the world, you know, we like to think about the wealth gap, and that's a very common conversation now.
Yeah.
And we know that we have been denied opportunities to engage in a financial inclusion and things like that, deny home ownership
Mhm.
and access to college educations and things like this. And so, as we start to focus on women's history and the place of women, it has we think about women as head of household now,
Yeah.
and them being drivers of the economy. And the conversation remains the same all the time, though.
Hmm.
Are we investing? Are we starting new businesses and things like that?
Yeah.
And that's a very important and quite honestly uncomfortable conversation in a lot of ways.
It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. And, in order for us to close the wealth gap, as you mentioned, starting new businesses, creating capital, supporting each other, working together in the community. And I think about some of those individuals from Maywood just recently, Laura Bell Swilly, who started her own HR consulting firm. And there are others out there who are doing great things, aspiring towards, greatness and this uniqueness. And we've had some Black women on our show in the past who have you know flourished in their own capacity. Um, but we still have a long way to go. We have to get over that burden of having a conversation about economic wealth and leaving an inheritance to our children's children.
Yeah, I mean, um, something that's most sitting at the forefront right now is student loan debt.
Hmm.
And quite honestly, again, that's a very tough conversation because you know Black women are the largest population of people that are in college, and comparable to Black men, they're in college, they're getting college degrees. Let me ask you this: what is their role as they are taking on um, college, the college degrees, getting mid-level management positions? I don't want to get you in trouble, but what is their responsibility?
They being those who produce the loans or the ones, the
No,
recipients.
the women that go to college, they graduate, they get master's degrees, and they become mid-level manager,
Mm,
decision makers, and things like that.
yeah. I think that what should take place is, women, especially those who, go through the halls of higher academia, to look out for each other, to partner, collaborate, train those who are the generation behind them, or even those who are aspiring to get to the level where they are. The path for some women is greater than others. And so, regardless of circumstance, if you are a woman who were fortunate to get a degree, higher education, they should, in my mind, just like brothers, should look out for each other. And I don't see, again, getting back to what I said, that connectedness, that camaraderie amongst we as a people. And so I see it incrementally with Black women, starting to look out for each other, partnering with each other, training, serving as mentors, that kind of thing. But that needs to happen more than it's happening now. Um, and just think about a community, a function. So, how many Black executives are there? women specifically, since it's Black Women History Month.
Yeah.
How many of us are CEOs? Kimberly Lance Bottoms, unbeknownst to me, and I'm a big fan of hers. She just left the White House recently. I'm like, dang, I didn't know she was there, you know? And we have to start looking out for each other and pulling each other up from those who are being left behind for whatever reason.
So as a person in finance, I want to say that the conversation has to grow from, you know, high income, college educated Black women to focusing on the net worth of
Mm-hmm.
Black women, ultimately Black families. Because if we're going to close the wealth gap, there's a couple of things that we're going to have to do. There's always a lot of conversation on the role of real estate, but the truth
Right.
is, like I always talk about, is the best performing asset class in the history of America is what? Stock market. The
No doubt.
barriers to investing in the stock market is much lower than what they are in owning a business or owning real estate. And
Mm-hmm.
so those educational pieces are essential to closing the wealth gap and creating more wealth in the community, and things like that. So
Yes, yes, indeed. We are making some headway, Terrence. I think that we have a ways to go, because I don't want to sound like there is no hope. We haven't tried, but we're fighting against the system.
yeah,
And when you talk about student loans, for example, my belief is that we shouldn't have to pay for college like the way we do in the first place. And financial institutions are making billions. They underwrite these loans, okay, with interest, and they're complaining now because you got the first 20,000, all right,
yeah,
but that person is owing 200,000, so that's only 10% of their total debt. So the other side of the equation, those who are saying, oh no, it's going to fall in American taxpayers, no, it's hurting corporations who have profited off of us, those of us who did pay thousands of dollars or got a loan to get through graduate school. Now we have to pay back. Why do I have to owe more in student loans than I would almost a mortgage?
yeah.
That makes
You and
sense.
I have had this conversation, and as I say, it's a tough conversation because, from a financial standpoint, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, but from a financial standpoint, it comes down to understanding finance,
Mm-hmm.
and in some cases, a small piece of education about not maybe borrowing the money, but really paying the money back
Right.
is really what we talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, do you pay just 10% of the loan, or do you go in there and pay way more than that, and really focus on reducing the debt so that you
Right.
can get to a place where you're investing and all those things. And so we'll leave it at that. But people that want to talk about this more, they should come on to the financial education classes, because these are the things that we
Mm-hmm.
tackle.
Yeah, you can tap into our class virtually for free. With your interest, email me at sratliff68@yahoo.com. I will send you a link to access the class, and we'll get into a more in-depth conversation. Like right now, the Supreme Court is listening to the sides and everything. And I see you, Jeremy. What's up? Jeremy Horns puts it best. They should teach finance in middle and high school. So they don't teach that in our neighborhoods, and it shouldn't be an elective. It should be part of a major. So there's a lot to discuss, a lot to unpack in due time. So
Who do we
yeah,
have on the program today?
so I'm excited to bring on the new director of the Maywood Public Library. I can't remember the last time we had one. I think it was Mr. Stanley Weathersby, or I can't even remember his last name. It's been that long. But this gentleman's name is Mr. Leighton Shell. And Mr. Shell he was raised in Lyons Township. He comes to Maywood from Stickney Forest View Public Library, where he worked from 2012 all the way to 2023. He has just started at the Maywood Public Library as director this last Tuesday. And prior to that, he was also a catalog librarian at Moraine Valley Community College and a digital collections librarian at the Pritzker's Military Library. Mr. Shell has two master's degrees, one in library science from Dominican University in River Forest, and the other in telecommunications from DePaul University. Go Blue Demons. I know Aaron Janoski would like that. Mr. Shell also has military experience as he served in both the Wisconsin Army National Guard and in the United States Army Reserves. He's excited to work with trustees and staff who want what is best for the people of Maywood Public Library District and for the people of the village of Maywood. The board appreciated his service in the military and his variety of life and library experiences, which is extensive, including his excellent technology skills, which are sorely needed in this community. Mr. Shell, the board liked his belief in supporting staff in their work and in their professional growth. Staff members appreciated that he is the type of leader who allows experimentation and allows the program and service decisions to be made at the department level. And so since we know that Mr. Stan Huntington, thank you, audience, for that correction. Now, I'd like to introduce Mr. Leighton Shell as a new director of Maywood Public Library. Mr. Shell, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, sir.
Welcome aboard, and thank you for joining our podcast.
Thank you.
So I'd like to get started for talking a little bit about who Leighton Shell is, his upbringing, and what was the motivation to get into this field in the first place. So talk to our audience about where you come from.
Sure thing. So I grew up in the western suburbs of Chicago here. Grew up in the LaGrange Highlands area, Western Springs area. And then after college, when I was in college, I went through the ROTC program. I went to Eastern Illinois University for my undergrad, and I got my undergrad in computer management with the intent of being a computer programmer. When I got out of college, though, finding a programming job was difficult, so I kind of found my way getting into telecommunications and IT, and I worked there for a variety of companies, IBM, AT&T, and got my master's in telecommunications, as you said. And then around 2002, I want to say, the IT industry was having some problems. The last IT company I worked for at the time was teetering in and out of bankruptcy. And at the time, I was looking for an IT job, and there was an IT network manager job for at the time, it was the suburban library system, or maybe the metropolitan library system. I can't remember exactly. And they wanted you to have a library science degree to be the network manager. And so I started investigating what was involved with getting a library science degree. And the more I looked into it, and I was living in Woodridge at the time, so I went and talked to my local librarian at the Woodridge Library. And the more I talked with her, I just started thinking to myself that I'm like, I think I might be done with the corporate world and working in IT, and just the idea of working in libraries just sounded much more in my lane. That I love, I always loved helping people, having the computer background. I was constantly helping either my parents or their friends or other people with, their emails or technology. And right. So I decided just to do away with the corporate world. Pursued my library science degree at Dominican University, and from there went to the Pritzker Military Library, and then from there to Moraine Valley and Stickney Forestry Public Library.
Awesome. Just wanted to throw out there, thank you for your service and for serving our country.
Thank you.
That's definitely worth mentioning. But I just want to kind of pause, put a pin right there for a second. You went to LT, which is a rival of Proviso East, my alma mater. And so you probably don't know, but I wrestled for Proviso East class 86, and I understand you were class at 87. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you were there when LT was a powerhouse wrestling, state ranked and everything. And we did beat LT because they were in our conference, but I tell you, they were a strong team back then, and we had to go through them to get to the path to our state championship year in 86. But the reputation that LT has had as a community and as an athletic program is phenomenal to this day, to the point that they just beat, I believe, Young High School in the sectional finals, or them or Curry. So congratulations to you on that. But that's phenomenal. And so getting back to the topic at hand, what was your motivation, or how did the process work for you to apply for this vacant position with the Maywood Public Library?
Sure, sure. Well, I had been working at, like, as I mentioned, I've been working at the Stickney Forsey Library for quite a while. But that was really the only public library experience that I had. So I was wanting to broaden my experience by getting into another library, perhaps a slightly bigger library. So I started looking around at coincidentally, there seemed to be a number of libraries in this general region that had some turnover of directors. Some people were getting jobs closer to home so they could cut their commutes in half. Some people were moving back to the East Coast. So there was a lot of opportunities. And if you check out some of the other area libraries like LaGrange Park and LaGrange and Forest Park, there's been quite a few new directors at all of those libraries. And Maywood Library had hired a consulting firm to manage the hiring process. They have had, after Stan Huntington, they have actually had a director for the past year and a half, Kathy Parker, but she was here strictly as an interim director with the intention always being she basically was hired to come in, kind of assess the situation, figure out where things could be improved and made better in overall processes and things, so that the new director that comes in has a somewhat clean slate from which to work. So she's been working here for the last year and a half, doing great work and getting things set up so that when I come in, I can focus more on let's bring the library now to the next level. She had already initiated the process. Like I don't know if everybody should have gotten a little card in the mail in Maywood talking about the new hours. She was able to increase the library's operating hours. Now the library's open Monday through Thursday, 10 to 7, and Fridays and Saturdays, 10 to 4. She was able to usher in going fine free here at Maywood Library, which is something that's been taking place at a lot of the libraries, just to remove that barrier to information that overdue fines can cause.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So like I said, she's been doing some great work for the past year and a half, and now she's going to hand that baton over to me, and it'll be my job to take it and run with it and continue the work that she's done.
That's fantastic. Now, it sounds like there's an onboarding process for her to get you acclimated to the library, the environment, things of that nature. Is there a timeline for when you'll take over full operations?
Well, for all intents and purposes, I have taken over full operations as of Tuesday.
Okay.
She is still coming in 1 day a week, and when we're going through a lot of the old paperwork, finding things, trying to improve the QuickBooks and the bookkeeping and everything. We still are in the process of looking for a business office associate to come in and help with the books. Right now, there's a lady who is assisting Kathy with the transition, but she also will be eventually moving on once we could hire a new business associate to work with the QuickBooks and everything. Awesome. But yeah, so everything else though, we're just kind of she's working with me so I can focus more on how to further improve the library through programming, through additional hours.
Right.
Ultimately, as we staff up more, we'll be able to do additional programming. Right now we do here at the library a mixture of adult programming and youth programming. We do a mixture of in-person programming, and we're still doing some virtual programming. So just as an example, we have right now for the adult side of the house, we've got like some bingo gaming that we do for adults. We've been doing chair yoga for older adults who want to come in and do some stretching exercises, but doing it safely where you're seated in a chair, so there's no fall risk for the older patrons that want to come to the library. We've got a meditation program that we have for adults. We actually had for Black History Month, we did have a program that got rescheduled, and it's actually coming up on March 11th. The History on Wheels Museum is going to be coming in to do a program celebrating the contributions made by African Americans through military service. So that'll be coming up on March 11th. In the youth department, we've got a whole bunch of programs that Miss Daniela is doing in the youth department. This upcoming Saturday, we've got the anime club for the youth here at the library. Next month, we'll be doing our Lego club at the library. Every Wednesday at 5 o'clock, we have a crafty afternoons for kids. I was walking through the youth department just about an hour ago, and it was just packed full of young kids, doing a new craft here at the library.
Nice.
That happens every Wednesday.
Nice.
So yeah, we definitely would like to, any way we could draw people into the library, we're trying to do. We do toddler story times, preschool story times. The youth
Nice.
department has computers that the young adults and the teens can use to do. They could use the computers to do their homework, but they could also come in and do some games on the computers. And as a longtime computer gamer myself, I definitely appreciate that. It's great that they can come in and just do some games on the computers here.
Nice.
We've got lots going on, and then coming up in the summertime, we've got we're starting the planning process for the summer reading program. So we're gonna have a lot of programs for summer reading. The theme this year is going to be Find Your Voice. And then jumping back to the youth department, right now during the month of March, any kids ages 5 through 17 can do a design for a new kids library card. They can submit an entry through the end of March, and one of those kids design cards will be unveiled this summer as our new kids library card.
Nice. That's fantastic. A lot of innovation taking place, and I'm so glad to hear these programs, phenomenal programs that gets Maywood caught up, not just for the seniors, but the youth. I love the flexibility that you have as far as hitting the senior population, the adult population, as well as the youth population, even the young children population. And so as it relates to like the summer reading program and those other programs, are there costs associated to register for these programs? Have they been set yet? No cost?
No cost for
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Wow. So where would the funding come from? And I'm asking because Maywood struggled in the past, and that's why they were closed, because of lack of funding. So you don't have to be specific, but is there a plan?
Yeah, no. We have been, so the funding itself comes through the property taxes. So property tax revenue comes in, and that's where we get it from. I was actually just working on a report earlier. I think maybe 3% of the Maywood property tax bill comes to the library, and then there's also a personal property tax amount that we get, a personal property replacement tax that we get through the Village of Maywood as well. But then we also apply for grants, and we get a lot of grant money. There's an organization, Age Options, that provides funding to do programming for seniors. It's to help combat social isolationism for seniors. So to kind of help them continue to be engaged with others and to come to the library as well. But yeah, no, we have been, and that's one of the things that I'll be carrying forward from the work that Kathy Parker's been doing, is that we've been, identifying areas where, we're able to spend better, more efficiently, and not have to worry about doing things like closing the library like has happened in the past.
Yes, sir. I know in the past, to rent a room to do whatever activity, or just to rent the room upstairs, there was a cost associated with that. Would that be the case going forward?
Yeah, well, the cost is for organizations. So as individuals, if an individual wants to come in and use one of the study rooms, there's no cost for that.
Okay.
But if, say, like a nonprofit, like a local Little League organization wanted to rent out a room to do a Little League sign-up event or something, that I believe the cost is maybe $15. And then I believe if a for-profit organization wanted to use a room for something, and forgive me, it's
Sure.
only been like 7 days.
Right.
But I believe the cost for a for-profit organization to use one of the meeting rooms might be $30. I think it might just be double what the nonprofit would be. But as far as just individuals wanting to come and use a study room for anything, there's no cost for that. We have people coming in and use those rooms a lot.
Fantastic. So I wanted to ask about Terry put out there about Eternal Light. So okay, I'll put out there. I have a nonprofit that's Maywood based called Eternal Light community services. And we actually used to utilize the Maywood Public Library through the early, so maybe 20 through 2010, 2011. We had a public speaking program and a financial education program. And so we still do that virtually and some cases in person. So in terms of partnering with nonprofit organizations, like we did in the past with Mr. Huntington and some of the others who were there, is that something that's part of your vision to work with nonprofits in Maywood or any other entity?
Oh, definitely, definitely, yeah. I mean, bringing in speakers, as I mentioned, the History on Wheels group. That's actually a partnership with the Maywood Historical Society and the Rotary Club. Also, the three of us are partnering together to bring that History on Wheels program into the library here. So any opportunity we can have to partner with an organization, I'm definitely willing to look into. I'm just getting my feet wet as far as learning what organizations are out there and
Right.
who's available to partner with.
Yes.
So that is definitely something that we can explore more.
In that same vein, like I said, it's only been 7 days. You've unpacked a lot of information, so you're doing good. So before I keep asking you these little pinpoint questions, what is your vision as director of the Maywood Public Library?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think a lot of my vision is the practical side of things. So, right now we've been able to expand the hours of operation to 10 to 7, Monday through Thursday, 10 to 4, Friday and Saturday. Ultimately, it'd be nice to be able to expand that to maybe 9 a.m. until 8 p.m., 9 a.m. till 9 p.m., just have more hours of operation for the library. Also, when I came to the library, before I was hired for the job, I came in to do a little kind of secret shopper where I brought my laptop and set up one of the tables downstairs, and I got to see the youth. Quickly looked into the youth department as well. But then once I was offered the job and I got to do a full tour of the facility, I got to see the third floor, and the third floor is not currently being used by the library, other than maybe an occasional performance space if we have a singing group or a band or something playing. But that third floor of the library here is just an amazing space. And so one of my personal goals will also to be able to get that third floor of the library as a publicly available, usable space again. I think it's a shame that particularly, I'm trying to think of my orientation here. I believe it's facing east where the park is and the Fred Hampton pool.
Yes.
There's the big window on the third floor that looks out on over that park. And
Yes.
I think it's a shame that we don't just have a place for people to sit up there and be able to look out the window overlooking the park. So that's also then one of my practical goals is just to get that third floor as a functioning available space again. But then just in general, we would like to we'll do more renovations to upgrade. I don't believe there'll be any renovations per se coming up, other than just maybe sprucing the decor up and stuff like that. But the building itself is pretty well. It's got great bones and it's a great space.
Yeah.
We are about to do a full facilities assessment of it. We're having a company come in who will check out top to bottom, roof, tuck pointing, everything, HVAC. They're going to give us a full assessment of the physical facilities of the library here. And once we know how that looks, we'll be able to kind of forecast into the future as far as where we'll need to do any upgrades. But again, as far as my vision of going forward, I think it's a beautiful building as it is. Yes. We're just not using all of it. So I definitely would love to see that third floor in operation again. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. You're fine.
So I was going to say then, but then navigating away from that just pure practical aspect of my vision, I definitely would like to look for more ways to just expand the services to the public. Right now, we're already offering Wi-Fi hotspots to the public to be able to check out and take home, so that if people don't have internet access at home, they can actually take one of these hotspots home, access the internet from the comfort of their own home.
Nice.
Obviously, we'd love people to come to the library and use the internet and use our computers here, but for some people, it might just be easier if they have to worry about caring for children. It might be easier to have that internet with them at home. And then to grow from there. I don't believe we're currently circulating laptop computers or Chromebooks, but that'd be something I'd like to expand on, have that kind of technology that people can bring home.
Yes.
There's a growing phenomenon in libraries of a lot of times they're called a library of things, where it's just things you wouldn't ordinarily associate with being able to check out from the library. And we're kind of dipping our toe in the water with that right now. You could actually come to the library and check out like a hot glue gun. If you're a person who's crafting at home, you could check out a hot glue gun. But there's all kinds of things that, at some libraries you can check out Instant Pots to, take home and do cooking with. Some libraries have whole collections of themed cake pans, so that so that you don't have to buy and I don't have children, so I don't know what the cool cartoon is right now.
Yeah.
But you can just come and check out I'm going to say Mickey Mouse because that's how old I am.
The
Mickey Mouse cake pan from the library, not have to go out and buy one.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of ways to expand the technology. And another thing that we just did at my last library was we got what's called a smart locker, so that if you cannot come to the library during our normal hours of operation, the smart locker is outside the library. We put materials into the locker. You show up with your library card. You can actually access the locker with your stuff in it and pick up the materials when it's convenient for you. So if you can't come to the library until a Sunday when we're closed, you have your materials waiting for you in a smart locker. You would swipe your card, the locker would pop open, you pick up your materials.
No charge for that?
No charge at all. It's very similar to like they've got those Amazon delivery lockers you can have deliveries sent to.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm going to try to explore to do here also. Because again, until we can expand the hours further than we've already expanded them, that would allow us to then make materials available to people that can't get here by 7:00.
Right.
So.
I love it. I love it. One thing I want to say, the third floor, Terrence and I, as I mentioned, we used to have public speaking and financial literacy programs, and we had a good number of youth come in, even from as far as like Lockport, Joliet, Southside Chicago, because the hours were amicable to their schedule. And I would love that third floor to be operating again because it's a beautiful view. The building is not that old. So I agree. It should not be closed. I mean, there's no reason why it should be renovated. It's solid. So I hope that you're able to get that, back on track. So definitely praying for that. I want to bring something to your attention that you probably already know. The community is struggling economically. Okay. There are a lot of abandoned homes, a lot of abandoned buildings. People are struggling with property taxes being as high as they are. And of course, as you mentioned, 3% of property taxes revenue is going towards the library, which is justified because you provide invaluable services. And you mentioned grants. How do we get above that barrier to have the library solvent, if you will, without relying so much on property taxes when the community is struggling? You're not a politician, but you are a director. You're in a position, executive position. How do we get past that sort of so residents won't say, well, why are you paying the library so much? Well, you could get grants, you could get donors, you can get partnerships that can infuse money into the library. How do we work through that in these difficult economic times in Maywood?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. To be honest, in my experience, the property taxes are the driving financial source of revenue for the public libraries. There are grants available, and I'll be exploring every avenue I can to identify them and apply for them. But I think even in I want to say during the pandemic, there was the American Recovery Plan Act.
Yeah.
So there was a Transforming Library Spaces grant. There was a Bouncing Back from the Pandemic for Workers. But even those grants were like, I want to say it was $25,000 for the Transforming Spaces grant. It was maybe $15,000 for the Bouncing Back, and you could do good things with those. But I don't know if those could necessarily become the primary funding source for library operations. I think it will always have to be a certain amount of, that coming from the property tax. Now,
Sure.
the goal then is to not be increasing that year after year after year.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Yes, that would have been my next question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, right now, the way we're looking at the numbers, it seems like going forward, we've got a very solid base to do our operations of the library. And I'm sorry, I'm just not used to this. So it's like all of a sudden, boom, I'm on my monitor looking at myself talking. But yeah, I mean, we've been going through the budget. We're looking at ways we can get more staff in the building to be able to open additional hours for the library. That'll be one of the key components of getting that third floor operational, is to be able to have an appropriate number of staff members in the building to be able to be spread out on 3 floors of a building like that. So the idea is to be spending the money wisely so that we don't have to worry about increasing the taxes. We should be getting enough taxes to be able to do everything we want to do. And that's the goal going forward, is to do that.
Love it. One question that comes to mind, I think it's probably my final question, is part of your plan, whether it's short or midterm, to partner or at least have some type of connection with the local schools, District 89 and 209, like Proviso East, that kind of thing, PMSA, for example.
Definitely. Our head of the youth department, Miss Daniela, I believe, is already reaching out, establishing those relationships with the different school districts.
Mm-hmm.
Once I'm getting more established, I also then will try to reach out to them as well, just to introduce myself and try to find ways of working with them as well. But yeah, that's the idea, is to be able to go to the schools, talk to the students about what is available to them here at the library,
Mm-hmm.
so that they feel more comfortable coming here, and just building those relationships up with the various school personnel, so that we can do that.
So this is my last question. What did you anticipate happening when you were offered the position as director of the Maywood Public Library? That sense of feeling did you foresee challenges? Were you informed that there would be major challenges, or the feedback that you got from the board, even personnel?
Sure. No, I had heard that the library had closed in the past, and that there had been some financial struggles to keep the doors open, to have a full staff. Excuse me. I mean, there are standards that all Illinois libraries are supposed to be striving towards, that are put up by the state, and based on population sizes, you should have a staff of a certain number of people to support that population. And so I knew that there would be challenges to get us to where we need to be, but at the same time, I knew that I wasn't going to be coming in and getting dropped off, by myself with a Swiss Army knife and some duct tape, and have to figure it all out myself.
Right.
As I mentioned before, Kathy Parker's been doing fantastic work, laying the groundwork. She's got 16 years of experience doing this, and so she's able to come in and identify where things need to be, reassessed and changing the way things are done. And she's been doing that, and she's been doing a fantastic job with that. So nice. knowing that I wasn't going to be basically tossed into the deep end of the pool, right, with maybe one floater but not the other one, right, that gave me a lot of comfort. So that my experience, I kind of circling back, when I was going through undergrad at Eastern Illinois University, the computer department was run through the School of Business. Mm-hmm. So in my undergrad degree, I had to take your marketing classes and your accounting classes and your macro and microeconomics mm-hmm. classes. So I feel like I've got a pretty solid understanding of the business side of things as it is. Yeah. And then with my technology background, I'm a very data-driven person. So I'm very spreadsheets and reports, and I like to analyze. And that's why I was able to pull out that 3% tax thing, because I was going through a tax bill saying, okay, how much of the money is going into these various things? So between those two things, between knowing that Kathy had come in and done a lot of the heavy lifting already, and that this type of scenario is within my wheelhouse as far as running the numbers, managing the budget,
Right.
getting things back up functioning, better. I felt pretty comfortable coming in to take that responsibility. And
Fantastic.
it's like I said, I came in and I saw the library too, and I'm like, this is just an amazing building.
It is amazing. It's amazing.
In fact, coming in and seeing the original library,
Yes.
the Carnegie portion of
Yes.
the building,
Yes.
blew me away. When I interviewed with the library board and I sat in that conference room with the wood trim and everything, it is
Yes.
just an amazing space. It's an amazing space.
You would have really appreciated the old library before this one was built. It was a necessary project to build this new library. But growing up in Maywood in the 70s and 80s, there were actually two libraries. One is at the location you are now, and then the other one was is on 17th, off of 17th and Madison, across the street from Urban School, which is no longer there, of course. But that the one that you are now at that location, it was a beautiful library. It was historic, but it was old. And when things started to change, as far as the population changed, then the building changed, and ultimately it had to be torn down. But as you maintain the building internally as well as externally, what are you looking at in terms of maintaining the programs and expanding on it from a technological standpoint to keep up with the 21st century and beyond for every population demographic, from seniors all the way down to our kindergarten, pre-kindergarten students?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are things we can do, and I don't believe that Maywood Library has them, but there are these, I think they're called launch pads that are like they're like for young kids, and they're technical tablet type things that get them familiar with using technology at a young age. That is something I'd like to bring into the library. And that's something that you circulate. You circulate it like a book, that they could take it home and they could play with it. As I mentioned before, just finding other technology that we can circulate to the public within the building itself. And we've got some great meeting room spaces. And one way to potentially improve them to make them more functional from a technology standpoint for the public is to install some wall-mounted large, flat panel screens that if people want to come in and plug a laptop into and do a group, meeting, showing us a computer up on the wall, up on the wall-mounted TV screen. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of technology that we can do in that regard. The library already has the Wi-Fi and the internet access here. We've got some solid databases that people can use from home or here at the library, but there's others I'd like to explore. Somebody had asked, there was a comment before that I didn't get a chance to talk on before, that someone was asking about for GED.
Yes.
People with GED. And I know that there's one database, the name is escaping me right now, but it's mainly designed as like a homework help tool for K through 12 students, but then it has a whole adult education side where you could actually use this database to assist you with pursuing a GED. So that would be something that someone could do kind of as a self-study. But then there's always there's always the possibility of bringing organizations in to come in and do those kind of GED courses here at the library as well, or citizenship or what have you.
Yeah. Okay, this is my final question because I know we got to wrap up the show. So externally, outside the community, has there been or will there be conversation or discussion about perhaps accessing the Library of Congress or other sources outside that those who are in the village, when they come to the library, they can access, those other resources in that regards? Because, Library of Congress is the largest library in the world.
Oh, sure. I mean, I believe this is already the case, but so the Maywood Public Library is part of the surrounding Swan Library Consortium. So, Berwyn, Cicero, North Riverside, Hinsdale, we're all part of this consortium, and we share materials between our libraries within that Swan Consortium. Larger than that, then, we're also part of this OCLC consortium, and we can actually request materials from basically any library around the country, through that OCLC system. Now, depending on the library, sometimes there might be a postage cost involved with that. If someone wants to check out a book that's only available from a library in Cleveland, then if the Cleveland library says, oh, okay, but we need to charge some kind of postal rate to send that book to you, there might be that. But it's possible to get these materials. One of my goals is to.
May I have your attention? May I have your attention?
Sorry, we're getting our 15 minutes to closing announcement here at the library. But
Any material you wish to check out?
we already can request materials from libraries all across the country. If we don't have it here, chances are we could find it and very likely get it for you. Whether or not we can get something from the Library of Congress, that might be a little something else. But most academic libraries, public libraries around the country, as part of that OCLC resource sharing service, we can usually get materials like that.
That's beautiful. That's just as good, because if you have a graduate student come in, or somebody's in an IB program and they need to get material, whatever the case may be, having access to that kind of resource. So you more than answer my question. And so we're going to wrap this podcast up.
Can I mention just one real thing real quick?
Oh yeah.
So I did want to mention also that now the deadline is this Friday, but we do actually have a vacancy on our library board right now. So if there's a resident of Maywood who's interested in potentially serving on the library's board of trustees, you would need to get me a letter of intent and a resume by Friday. But if you do, then we could include you in our list of trustee interviews to potentially come and serve on the board with our other library trustees.
How do they see the announcement? Is there certain requirements or whatever that they need?
Sure. They can actually go to our webpage. It's just www.maywoodlibrary.org. And right on the front page of our website, there'll be a apply for trustee. I don't remember exactly what the wording of it is, but if they click on that link, it'll give them all the information they need. My email address is just lshell@maywoodlibrary.org. People can email me their resume and letter of intent, or if they want to just print one out and drop it off at the front desk, one of our staff members could take it and pass it on to me as well. But as I said, the timeline is the deadline is this Friday. Yeah.
Get on it, people.
Yeah.
Get on it. This is a tremendous opportunity to get back to your community and get to know a little bit more about Mr. Shell and the fantastic vision he has to build the library up. So, Mr. Shell, I want to give you the last couple minutes to share any kind of thoughts that we may have not discussed, any events or whatever. Please do so. The stage is yours.
Yeah, you know what? I also forgot to mention that in addition to the vacancy in the library board, I wanted to mention that, but I also wanted to let everyone know that we are actively looking for feedback from the community on ways we can improve the library and things we can do better. So we're currently doing a survey for the public. You could stop by the library and pick up a print copy of the survey, fill it out and bring it back. Or again, if you go to our website, www.maywoodlibrary.org, right on the front page of our website, there's a link to do the survey online. We're just looking for feedback from the community, what you like about the library, what you think needs to be improved at the library, what are things we should be doing at the library. Please fill out that survey. Let us know, because that ultimately is going to help drive the vision that I have, is the feedback I get from the community. Also, as a new director, I'm going to try to be scheduling some times where I'm going to be sitting just at a table downstairs, and I'll post that online as well. But I would love for the people to come in and just find me, sit down, we could talk, and you could tell me in person, things about the library, what you like about it. And similar to the town hall, we can definitely look at scheduling a town hall like that, but in the near term, I'm just going to be making myself available weekdays, some weekday evenings, and on Saturdays for people to come in and just sit down and bend my ear and tell me what you're looking for in the library.
Fantastic. Mr. Shell, I'd like to thank you again, because I know your schedule is packed, and I appreciate you taking time to come on our podcast and share your vision with the community and those who are watching from a community and all over the country, for those of us who grew up in Maywood. But with that said, I am very much encouraged after speaking with him, and I'm hopeful that things will turn around for the Maywood Public Library and serve as a valuable asset for the village of Maywood. And until next time, when we bring on our next guest on Let's Talk Maywood on Diversity Today Media, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Please like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. I am Dr. Reggie Ratliff. And until next time, stay blessed. God bless you and be safe.